Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. What we're going to be talking about today is the key to succeeding at your first software development job, right? I've been thinking about my career recently and my first job, my first internship, and a couple of things I could have improved upon. And today I thought I'd make a video highlighting some of the key things that I wish I would have done when I started that would have definitely helped me, improve faster, increase my confidence faster, and just generally become a better software developer quicker than what I did in real life, right? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you guys enjoy the content. It helps me out so much. So the first thing to do is don't be afraid to ask questions and ask as many questions as you need. In my opinion, this is where a lot of beginner developers and kind of people that are starting their first software developer jobs, I think this is where they struggle the most. You enter a new job, there's a lot of code, there's a ton of things you don't understand, and what you basically do, or at least what I did at first, is I didn't want to ask questions because I didn't want to, one, seem stupid and show them that I'm not as good as what they thought I was, and two, I just didn't want to bother other developers. I thought they were busy and I thought, that they had better things to do and I was just wasting their time and kind of being a nuisance, right? But what you have to understand is that, when you first start a job, right, you're going to get a couple of tasks that, might be simpler, but basically the point of the first couple of weeks and the first couple of months is made for you to get comfortable with the code base and really learn how everything works so that in the future, right, you're not asking questions and you can work on more complex tasks and basically you'll be a lot more efficient. So in this time period, right, when you're starting off, obviously you're not going to know what's going on. Obviously you're going to be very confused and you're going to need guidance from other developers to understand the different topics, understand how things work, and to actually complete your tasks. You probably won't be able to do it alone because odds are it's like a complex system that you've never worked with before, right? And what's going to happen if you're scared to ask questions or you're taking too long to ask questions is that your productivity is not going to be that good. And when you're starting off, you don't want to give off that kind of vibe, right? What you don't want to do is kind of get your first task, start coding, and then realize, okay, I'm kind of confused, I don't know how things work. And then you just end up being confused, and then you're scared to ask a question because of the reasons I said before. And what happens is that hours go by, maybe a day or two go by, you really don't know what to do, you're trying a couple of different things, but you really don't want to ask a question, you don't want to bother anyone. What happens is that a couple of days go by and you haven't made any progress on your work. And that's the last thing you want because, it's your first impression, it's your first couple of weeks, and the other developers are going to realize, okay, what's happening here? Why aren't you being as productive? Now consider this situation. You start off, you have a task that's pretty complicated, you don't know what to do, and okay, you don't want to ask a question right away, you want to try your own thing, you want to see if you can come up with a solution by yourself. Maybe you read some documentation, maybe you just read through the code and you try a couple of different solutions. At this point, if you still are having trouble and you don't know what to do, you reach out to a developer, right? What you want to do is show them what you've tried, kind of explain to them your understanding, see if you're on the right track, and maybe get a couple of hints or a couple of tips from them and how to move forward and how to get over what's blocking you. Now, in my opinion, the second way is a lot better to work as a beginner. It'll show that you want to understand that you're trying your own things, right? You're not just getting a blocker and then asking a question right away, right? You're actually trying your own solutions and then asking a question. And this way, you're actually going to be able to progress. And what you're going to realize is as the weeks go by, your understanding is really going to, keep improving, and you're going to be asking less and less questions to the point where you'll be able to, code features by yourself and, maybe ask a couple of questions here or there because that's completely normal, but you won't really have to have your handheld, right? The thing is, this is going to be a bit tough, right? Like I said before, it's going to be, these are people that you've never worked with before. These are very experienced developers. You want to impress them. You want to seem like you know what you're doing. And the best way to do that is to ask these questions at first. It's going to be hard because, it's awkward. You don't know these people and you're asking these questions that you think are stupid, that you should know. But in reality, this is exactly what they expect. No one expects to hire a new person and have them come in, see a new code base that they've never worked before, and then completely understand it right away, get to work and, finish a feature in a couple of days and move forward. The expected behavior is that you're going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to be, learning as you go. You're going to be coding a feature. You're going to be learning new, components and stuff like that. And you're going to be learning as you're developing. And that's what you want. So I know it's going to be hard, and I know sometimes, it's a bit tough to ask these questions, get out of your comfort zone, but that's definitely what you want to do. And definitely in some of my earlier internships and earlier on in my career, I for sure made this mistake. And trust me guys, the feeling of, not being productive for a long time because you're afraid to ask questions and having other developers, talk to you about that feeling is so much worse than, you know, you asking an awkward question, not even an awkward question, just a question that you think is stupid or awkward, you just getting out of your comfort zone a bit. That feeling is way, you know, easier to process than, you know, the other one. And I would definitely recommend, as hard as it is, as, you know, shy as you may be, and, you know, as scared as you may be to ask questions, you have to ask questions when you're starting out, and you have to not be afraid to kind of step out of your comfort zone, reach out to a couple of different developers, and, you know, ask them for help to figure out your solutions. Not only that, right, but when you're asking questions, when you're reaching out to other developers, you want to be taking notes, and you really want to be taking it in what they're saying, because what you also don't want to happen is that you're asking too many questions, right? If you're asking something one day, a couple of days goes by, you run into the same mistake, and you're like, wait, how did I solve that? You reach out again and again, you know, that really doesn't show that you're learning. What you want to do is, you know, maybe take notes, maybe do some more research on your own about what you talked about, and really develop an understanding so you're not asking these questions many times, right? So you have to find a balance between, you know, first trying a solution by yourself before asking a question, right? Because you don't want to just ask off the bat for a solution, because then they're basically doing the work for you. So you want to find a balance between, you know, trying out your own solutions and then, you know, asking a question, and then not asking the same question repeatedly. You want to actually take in what the developers are saying. Guys, if you do this, I guarantee you your first couple of weeks, your first couple of months will be so smooth, and you're gonna realize, okay, asking questions isn't that hard. It's not as embarrassing as I thought it was. And, you know, moving forward at your next job and the next one after that, your onboarding experience is going to be so much easier. Another key to succeeding at your first job is that when you start off, right, if you're unfamiliar with the language that they're using and that you're going to be using in you know, in the job, you really want to take time to learn the language, to read some documentation, and, you know, even read the code base to kind of understand what's going on, because it's going to take a bit more effort, especially if it's a new language that you're unfamiliar with, right? There's a ton of resources online that you can spend time on and learn different languages. And, you know, you might be asking, you know, John, why would I be using a language that I'm unfamiliar with at a job? And, you know, oftentimes this will happen. You're not necessarily getting hired for one language. You're getting hired for your experience and your ability to learn, right? So sometimes you're gonna have to use something new. And when that happens, you're really gonna wanna like put in the extra step and learn the language. And it's really not that difficult if you already have experience, you know, learning other languages. And if you're getting your first job, odds are that you've either, you know, had an internship or built some side projects or something. So if you already have experience learning one language, it won't be as difficult as you think. And now a good way to do this is when you get your first couple of assignments, you know, your first, or even just like you get your first assignment, right? And it's, and you have to, you know, make a couple of changes, add a new feature, whatever it may be. Just, you want to take the time, read through the code base, and odds are that in the code base, there's going to be certain places where what you're trying to implement, you know, a certain version of that will be implemented, and you can kind of take that as an example and maybe use that on something that you're working on, and you really just want to spend some time learning this new language. Now, when you're doing this, you want to genuinely take time to learn and understand what you're reading. You don't want to just, you know, take something that another developer wrote, copy and paste it, and then be like, okay, it works, and then move on. Because odds are, you know, you're not understanding what it is, and you might have made a mistake. There might be a bug somewhere. And so all I'm saying, guys, is that a mistake I've made in the past is when I get introduced to a new language that I have never used before, and all of a sudden I have to work with this language for a couple of days or for a couple of weeks, whatever, on a certain task. I didn't really take the time to understand it. And what happened was it took me a lot longer than it should have, and that I think I could have completed it in. And I was trying a lot of different things, making a lot of different mistakes that could have easily been avoided if I had just spent some time reading some documentation, or maybe just watching a YouTube video, or whatever it is, just taking some time to genuinely understand this new language. And when you're going to be doing this, right, you're going to realize that obviously it's not going to come easy. It's going to be difficult, and you just have to understand that you can't get frustrated when you're introduced to a new code base, when you're introduced to a new language, because this happens to everyone. Even the most experienced developers are going to struggle at first with, you know, a new job or a new code base or a new language, because obviously you've never done it before. So you can't get too hard on yourself, and you can't get discouraged when you're learning something new, because you know that you've been hired because you can do the job, and you know that you're capable. And so all you have to do is just put in the effort to genuinely learn this new language that you're using. And as you're doing this, you know, as you're learning, what you want to do is you want to keep track of some things you don't know so you can research them later, right? Otherwise, things are going to, you know, pile up, and there's going to be a ton of different topics that you're not familiar with, where you know, if you're reading through the code or you're reading through some documentation, you see something that you don't understand, you know, you want to take note of that so you can, you know, answer this question later, and you can familiarize yourself with these topics. Where otherwise, you know, if if you're just going to be skimming through and seeing some things you don't understand, and then just moving on, you're going to find that you're coming back to you're coming back to the documentation, you're rereading things you've read before just to like familiarize yourself with these topics. Whereas if you just answer the questions as you're going, your understanding is a lot better, right? Another key to succeeding in your first job as a software developer, this might be a bit off base, but what I've found recently is that online forums, especially, places like Reddit on like CS career questions, I feel like you should just avoid these at all costs because, sometimes I go on Reddit, sometimes I read through these things, and it's kind of become like an echo chamber of people that, aren't succeeding and are just complaining. And it's really easy to read through this stuff and kind of get the feeling that you're never going to succeed and you're never going to do well at your job because all you're seeing is people post, I can't find a job, or I just started one and I'm struggling so much. And it really is these topics that reoccur again and again. And guys, you have to realize that these places are mostly echo chambers of people that are just complaining, and it really can get you down. I read through these things and I get discouraged. I'm like, wow, like, is this that hard? But what you have to understand is the people that are doing, that are doing well, that are finding the jobs and that are actually succeeding, they're not posting questions here. And you get this misrepresentation of what it's actually like to be a software developer. And I'm imagining, right, if I'm like looking for a job, especially now during the pandemic and all this kind of stuff, if I would be looking through a job, I go on Reddit to kind of get some tips, and all I'm reading on, r/CS career questions is that, oh my God, I've applied to 500 jobs and I can't find one. What am I doing wrong? Or I'm struggling. I keep doing interview after interview and I can't find one. I'm not getting into any interviews. It's really easy to get yourself in a very negative mindset. And this is not a real representation of what the real world is like. So, if you guys are the type of people that go on forums online, go on Reddit a lot, I would definitely suggest to avoid these places because it really just is like a negative place. And one of the best ways to do this is, to just not compare yourself to other people and to just focus on yourself. A lot of people go on Reddit and these places to kind of validate their own experience, to feel better about themselves because they can compare themselves to others and stuff like that. But all this is going to do is get yourself down. So what I would do is just compare yourself to yourself in the past. If you can see that you're improving, you're making progress, that's really all that matters. And genuinely, guys, I really do think that these kind of forums are to be avoided at all costs because there's nothing positive to gain from them. And the most important thing, especially if you've just started your first job and you're kind of struggling, you're overwhelmed, maybe you have imposter syndrome, what you have to understand is that the company hired you for a reason. You went through an interview process, probably a technical question, a behavioral question, you spoke to a couple of engineers, and then they decided to offer you, a job. They're paying you money to code. And what this means is that they genuinely believe that you have the ability to succeed, right? And take this as a confidence boost. They hired you for a reason. Now, obviously, they didn't hire you to, start from day one, start, implementing everything and being like a professional, super high level software developer, especially if it's your first job. The reason they hired you is that they see potential in you. They think that you're able to learn new topics quickly and that you're a good developer. And so you take that and you move forward, you progress. Don't get down on yourself because you're struggling, you don't know what to code, you're confused, all these kind of things are kind of going to get into your head. But just take solace in the fact that you were hired, they're confident in your ability, and all you have to do at first is just put in the effort and learn and improve. No one expects you to build some life-changing feature if it's your first job and your first three months on the job, right? People just want you to put in the effort to show that you're learning and to make progress, and that's really all you have to do. You should consider yourself more of an investment that'll come through in the long term rather than a short-term investment. And if you put in the effort and you genuinely try, there's no reason why you can't succeed. And the last key to succeeding at your first job is to ask for feedback as often as you can. A lot of companies might have a probation period where after 2 or 3 months they you have a review and then they decide to whether to keep you or to let you go or stuff like that. Other companies don't do that, but something that's very beneficial at first is maybe every couple of weeks, every month or two, whatever you're comfortable with, ask your manager, your supervisor, or a senior developer, how are you doing? What kind of things can you be doing to improve? What kind of things what kind of things are you doing incorrectly that you can improve on? And this kind of feedback is priceless because they're literally telling you, in their opinion, what you could be doing better. And if you take all their tips to heart and you genuinely improve upon them, you apply that to your daily life, then you're definitely going to see progress and you're definitely going to succeed in the position. And then the next time that you get feedback, you'll see other constructive criticism, and they're going to be saying that you did improve and you genuinely took their advice and took the time to work on it. And I think this is one of the best things that you can definitely do. You know, when I was an intern at other companies, I sometimes went months without getting a review. And you know, when you're an intern, the whole point of your job is so you can learn, right? And you can get better and, like, you know, gain some experience. And I really sometimes I didn't even get any feedback, and this really hinders you because you don't know if you're doing it right? Imagine yourself, you're a fresh software developer, and you're like a child basically. You don't know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and other experienced people, if they can mentor you, if they can give you their thoughts on like the work you're doing, how to improve, how to get better, this is such valuable information. You should strive to get that as often as possible. You know, you don't want to be asking them every day for reviews, but every couple of weeks, every couple of months, definitely get some feedback. And these kind of meetings also give you the ability to give the employer feedback, to tell them what they can improve on, and just kind of give them your thoughts on your experience so far. So getting feedback for yourself is key, and you should strive to do that, you know, on a semi-regular basis. You really want to figure out if you're on the right track, if you're succeeding, and if you're doing things correctly. And many times the things that will be brought up will probably be things that you didn't even realize you were doing, and you know, you weren't conscious of these mistakes that you were making. And if you can, you know, get them out of your system, get these habits out of the way, or whatever it is you're doing that can be improved upon, if you can improve upon it as quickly as possible, your progress will skyrocket. You're going to learn so much faster. You're going to gain so much more confidence quickly, and you know, you'll just be able to become a much better developer in a shorter period of time. Don't make the mistake I did, where, you know, I was too shy to ask for feedback. I was scared that, you know, it was going to be bad feedback. The good thing about getting bad feedback is you get a step-by-step process on what you can, literally things that you can do to get better, right? So it's genuinely like priceless, this information. And I think, like I said before, guys, try to get feedback as often as possible. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It's free for you. It means the world to me. You can always unsubscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. You can share some of your experiences and internships, or looking for a job, or your experiences in your first positions. You know, let me know if there's anything I got wrong, or any kind of other tips that you guys think I should have mentioned. And as always, everyone, have a good day and enjoy your coding.